Have you ever realized that something you thought was right was actually wrong? Have you heard random myths like red hooks resemble blood from videos or friends? That's why today we are debunking 10 most common bass fishing myths. Alright, so starting off with our first one, we have bass strikes red hooks better because it resembles blood. Now, first of all, let's talk about how largemouth bass see colors. I've made a video about this before, and basically bass have different vision as humans. They primarily receive two colors, blue and green. To the fish, red is most likely much darker than you think, especially in deeper water. In deeper water, small shades of red, like the ones on the hooks, are very hard, if not impossible to see. Another thing to mention is that bass, unlike humans, don't really see red as an injury. Bass have ultra-sensitive sensory systems that can detect chemicals cues in the water released by an injured baitfish. This is how they taste an injury. They're also more attracted to erratic movements and struggles, since they represent an injured baitfish. So although bass have good vision, those impossible to see red hooks don't imitate an injured baitfish for the bass. Therefore, this is false. Next, we have that big bass only lives in deeper water. Now, bass, especially bigger ones, are quite smart. They are much more sensitive and adaptive to the environment. This means that bigger bass often go deeper when they need to, like when it's too cold or too hot. But big bass definitely still go shallow. During cooler seasons like spring or fall, bass go shallow to eat, as there are often plenty of bait and food near the bank. And there's also places to ambush them. Bass will follow the baitfish around as they move shallow or deep. This is why you can often catch bass in drop-offs or transitions where the shallow bank slopes into the deeper bank. This is because bass will have access to both shallow and deep ends, and they can often ambush transitioning baitfish. So yes, bigger bass like deeper water, but they definitely still go shallow when they need to. Next myth. Lipping a bass damages the fish. This one's kind of complicated. Now, bass are very strong creatures, as you know, and they can live through a lot of things. Lipping is one of the most common methods of handling a bass, and it's certainly a good way since it actually doesn't harm the fish when handled correctly. If you lip the lower jaw where it's relatively strong, you won't cause damage. Now, that doesn't mean you can keep the fish out of the water for very long, as that can still damage the fish and cause stress. It's also good to know that when you're handling a bigger bass, using your other hand as support is a much better idea. You know, you can lip it for a picture, but don't lip bigger fish for too long as it can cause stress on the spine and jaw. Next one is very interesting. Bass are easier to catch in clear water. Now, I love fishing in clear water. I can see everything. I can see what the ground is like. Sometimes I can see the drop-offs and the fish. And it just makes my mood better. Now, that doesn't mean the fish are easier to catch. In clear water, fish are very sensitive to unknown or new stuff as they have very good vision. They can tend to be much more finicky when using less realistic colors or presentations. Bass also have predators, so they will often go deeper in clear water to hide, and you would need a more subtle approach to a shallower fish since they can sense sound, movements, and noises way better, making shallow close bites much more difficult. Just because you're in dirtier water doesn't mean you need a much louder bait. Bass are very sensitive to vibrations and movements even when they're very far away. Okay, so we have all heard people say that fish have 3 seconds of memory. Now, this is completely false. As a matter of fact, bass are very smart creatures. They first have something called spatial memory, where they can memorize the layout and details of a complex aquatic environment. They're also capable of learning through associative conditioning, where they memorize a visual or a sound with a reward, meaning they do have memory. So bass can adapt from their prior experience of getting hooked, and they quickly force themselves to stop attacking a lure if they've been caught on it multiple times. When fishing, we've all found out that morning, evening times are much better for catching fish. So many of us choose to not go fishing midday because you just can't catch anything. Now, this isn't quite true. You have better chance morning or afternoon since water temperatures are cooler and there's less sunlight. Since bass are ambush predators, they do not like too much sun. But this doesn't mean that you can't catch a fish, especially during spring, fall, or windy, cloudy days. Bass can still be looking for a big meal midday. So although this myth is false, since you can definitely catch fish midday, but your chances will definitely grow in morning or afternoon during summer or hotter days. So next we have bass travel around randomly. This is actually false. Bass are very adaptive creatures and follow a bunch of natural patterns. For example, if the bait fish is going deep, there's absolutely no reason for the bass to stay shallow. If it's spawning, they will definitely go shallow and look for a spot. As the bass gets more used to a body of water, they can have specific patterns they follow due to these changes. This is why sometimes you will always find a fish in a spot, and that might just be the same fish, since they're so used to the same schedule every day. So basically, bass will go to different spots due to many reasons like water temperature, season, bait, forage, oxygen, predators, and many other complex reasons. And slowly they form a memory of this and have a route in their own mind. Number 8, we have scent doesn't matter. Scent matters way more than you think. See, bass are very sensitive creatures and often use their special sensory organs to detect a meal. They have a lot of taste buds that can basically taste the texture and scent of a prey. Even though they don't have a tongue, they can still feel an unnatural scent or texture after biting into a lure. You know how you see fish slowly bite into craws and spit it out? This is the reason to why. If the scent doesn't feel natural, like a bait fish or something edible, it's going to spit it. Although scent doesn't guarantee your catch, it makes a soft plastic much more appealing to the fish and potentially allow them to hold on longer. For the next one, we have an extended topic of the last one. Are cheap plastics the same as expensive ones? Why waste your good money on expensive soft plastics when you can get the craws for half the price from a random brand off Amazon? Now, if you did find a smaller brand that is very effective, good for you. But in general, cheaper plastics might have more issues like quality issues. Soft plastics in general aren't made for super long use. I've used some craws before that came off instantly after a few catches, while others stay longer. As I mentioned earlier, scent can be an issue as well. Many cheaper off-brand plastics don't have scent. This can cause the fish to feel less appealed, especially in colder conditions or murkier waters. Some good scent can attract bass from far away or force a lethargic bass to eat. Last but not least, some lures work the same in every pond. If you've been fishing for a bait, you will realize that this is completely false. Even baits that seem to catch fish everywhere, like soft plastic worms or flukes, might not work all the time. This can be caused by many factors like water clarity, temperature difference, oxygen levels, the fish itself, and pressure. I have a pond next to me where I can catch loads with just a white fluke. If I walk about 200 feet down, there's a second pond where I just can't catch any fish with white flukes. This might be because, they've seen the lure too much or they just don't like it. Sometimes you will just never know. So it's really good to have what you need when you're fishing a new place. This video took quite a bit of research, so if you liked it, make sure to leave a like and comment down below what you would like to see next. Spring is on its way and I have some crazy stuff planned, so stay tuned and thanks for watching.